Hey guys, welcome back to DMAC Customs on YouTube. Dave here in the garage. A little bit more, like a little bit of, you've probably seen by the thumbnail, a little bit more of a sign painting wood saw I've got to do again. Another toilet sign. Yeah, classy. But yeah, so I've got to dig out and back in there. I've got some pre-varnished saws in here somewhere that I had prepped up ages ago. Just because I was doing one, I prepped up some others, but now I don't know where exactly I have put them. They were up there but they're not anymore, so I'll just go find them, and then yeah, we'll get into it. Okay, so found them. Knew I had some. This one here is going to be the likely candidate. It's a bit thinner than I would have liked for what I got to do, but it's the only one that's kind of prepped up in the right direction, because I have to make this a directional sign. Okay, so I've got my little bench top easel out and a bit of ply to kind of be able to mount the saw onto, so I'm just going to chuck a couple of screws in to kind of hold it up on the ply in the right place, just so I can, I could do it laying flat, but it's kind of a bit harder to, film in that respect. But I'll find me a couple of screws and screw that onto the plywood. That'll be right. Dusted off. It's been in the back room there and whatnot for quite some time, so it's got a bit of just garage dust on it, you know what I'm saying? So this is my basic plan. I've got to write toilet and an arrow or some kind of pointing thing that way, and we also need to put another little logo on there. Now this particular saw is for a tattoo studio down in Wellington. It's the oldest tattoo studio in Wellington, and originally, before I even got into tattooing and when I was an apprentice sign writer, I got asked to do the signs for the studio. And I was like 17, 18 years old, and it was pretty intimidating going to Roger's Tattoo Art to do his signage for him, because he was the godfather of tattooing in Wellington. Well, kind of one of them. Yeah, there was Kevin Gray before him and Tiger Mitchell, but Roger, when I was coming up, was the bar, so the new owners of that studio have just done a bit of a refurb, and Dre, who owns the studio, contacted me and asked if I'd do him another saw, because he also owns another studio in another part of Wellington with a museum, and I did the last restroom sign for him for that. And so he sort of asked if I could do another sign for the old Rogers Tattoo Art in Wellington, and I did that. Initially I did the sign writing all on the outside, and Dre asked if I could go down to Wellington, or maybe sort of arrange to kind of redo the signage for the outside, since I did it the first time, because prior to that shop had never had any actual signage out the front, and it was still there until recently. And we're talking, without giving away any sort of beauty tricks or anything, but that was a 30 something years ago. Crikey, I don't know how long ago. It would have been 35, 36 years ago I did the signs there, and they were still up on that building. Still, the window signs were still there, and yeah, but we were gonna try and get down there and do them, but I just couldn't fit it in because it's a fair way away, and they needed to get on with their refurbishment. But this is something that I can do here and send down to them, and still have a little bit of Dave in that studio for the history of that tattoo shop sort of thing, since I did some signage. So we're going to do a little toilet sign for them to get up there on their point people to the toilet if they need to go. But yeah, so I'm just going to get in and start sort of sketching something out. Got a bit of a loose plan, so it's not going to be like big lettering and stuff, but it'll just be something. All right, so my plan is to leave a little bit of space over here somewhere. Maybe not there. I might maybe do something there. About that much space to do my writing. I'm going to follow the shape of the saw a bit, you know. So we want to make sure I spell it right. Toilet. And then we're going to do something to point that way. I was thinking of a bony hand or something, but we haven't really got a lot of room. So I might just ponder that for a bit, and thinking of like a Clarendon sort of style-ish. Clarendon's a style we used on the front window, and red with a black outline or black outline and drop shadow. I can't quite remember now. I'll just have a look and see if I can find some old photos. It'll be something like that-ish. I'm just trying to rough it out at the moment, but now we have to kind of get something pointing that way. Not really going to have enough room for what I was thinking. Not to do it a decent size anyway. Could I? Too small. What are we going to do? I have to have a little think about this. Is that enough of the anchor? Or does it need to be smaller? If it's small, something like that maybe? The anchor could work as an arrow here, maybe? A couple of sort of traditional-ish kind of looking flowers. Maybe one over here as well. And leave room for the little dragon card. And then a little bit of other doodads around the place. So start off with, I guess, what am I going to do? I'm going to do this toilet part in red, because that's kind of what the writing was out the front. Know what I'm saying? Alright, let's go. Okay, so that's the first kind of colour on it. Looks pretty rough in that at this stage, but trust me, I hope it gets better. I wonder whether I should have made it bolder, like the downstrokes bolder. I'm going to second coat it anyway, so I may actually thicken it up looking at it now. We'll see. But anyway, that's enough for tonight. I've got to go and do something else, like namely eat my dinner, and then yeah, we'll get back to this probably not tomorrow, but maybe on the weekend, if any luck. Hey guys, so it's the next morning. Let's check that it is dry. It is dry. I was thinking about this overnight. I don't really like it. It's just kind of a bit spindly. I actually want to kind of chunky up the red a bit. So I'm going to kind of quickly just kind of go over it and thicken up a few things and kind of second coat it. But I was also, this is something I've been wanting to kind of try for a while to, you know, see if I can get, you know, kind of modify like these cheaper paints to get a little bit more opacity out of them, you know, a bit more coverage. And what I have here is some crimson red powdered pigment, and this is a tattoo pigment from back in the day, powdered colour we used to call it. Yeah, there's old tattooists out there, we used to mix up our old, our colour by hand rather than buying predispersed sort of colour. And I've got a bunch of powdered colour been sitting in boxes up in the top of the garage there for quite some time, so I don't know how successful this will be, but I've been thinking about it for a while, especially when it got to the point where procuring like One Shot or Ronin or Alpha 6 became quite hard to do, but in saying that, I found out you can get One Shot again in New Zealand. So I've just put a couple of teaspoons of red in there. Now I've just got to see if I can really mix it up super smooth. Maybe put a little bit too much in there actually, but it's kind of looking a bit chunky. No, it's coming around. Yeah, so this is something I kind of wanted to try for a while. Like if I could add more powder, more pigment into some of these, which I just feel are a little bit underwhelming with their pigment loading, if that makes sense, and see whether I can actually make them cover nicer and then see how they dry, whether they dry kind of powdery or whether they dry still with some level of gloss and whatnot. It's just not something I've been thinking about, wondering if I could do it, But yeah, as I was saying anyway, you can, there's a couple of companies down the line, strangely enough both in Palmerston North, two hot rod companies that are now bringing in One Shot again. I was just googling around last night, but wow, the price has gone up exponentially. A 8-ounce tin, which I must check what size it is. I don't know what size they are, but an 8-ounce tin, they're not 8 ounce, are they? They must be, yeah, so that's 4 ounce, so 8 ounce is the bigger tins, probably more that size. Some of the colours were like 130 New Zealand dollars, and I think the cheapest, colours were about $70 or $80 for an 8-ounce tin, which is quite spendy. If I was to kind of like restock, I will still have to buy and restock some colours. My One Shot red is kind of precariously low. That's kind of why I'm farting around with this, just using this strokes enamel, because I want to save my One Shot for higher end sort of projects than a rusty old wood saw. Actually does make quite a nice red though. It's kind of taken some of the orange out of it and made it a little bit deeper, putting that crimson into it. Oh, I'll give that a shot and see what it's like. Alright, we'll give it a crack. I don't really know that it kind of colours any better at the moment because I'm kind of mostly second coating this, but okay, so that's the red sort of thickened up and second coated. Now, as far as my little experiment goes with adding that sort of powdered pigment to the red, depending on how it dries, I think it does actually add quite a bit of extra opacity to the paint. Well, it should do in theory anyway, but it feels a little grittier. So whether paint pigment is kind of ground up finer or whether the process of mixing it is not just a old kitchen knife stirring it in, whether it is a much more, you know, what it's bound to be. That's why paint companies and not just idiots in their garage chucking extra pigment into paint. But yeah, I'll let that all dry and then just sort of see, you know, how it dries up, whether it kind of does go a bit flat or a bit powdery. That's kind of my main concern if it does, but not a big deal on this. I wouldn't use it on someone's car or whatever, or a truck, or, you know, that sort of thing at this point, not without some serious experimentation. But yeah, I sort of tried it on a bit of white, you know, just doing sort of single pass stuff, and it seemed to cover. Tried writing Magnet on there just to see what it did, and then on this dark grey, sort of see what it did. But it's kind of weirder on this grey than on anything else. But that grey is, what was that? That's like a semi-gloss oil-based sort of stuff. But yeah, we'll let it all dry and then see whether it has got that kind of powdery sort of finish to it. I'm not sure that it'll be as glossy a finish, you know, because it's essentially less oils to pigment ratio sort of thing. But yeah, so that I like it better, a little bit thicker. The front tee's a little bit far away, the spacing's not that great, but it'll come together. There's going to be more stuff going on, outlines and things like that, and just custom culture a little bit, but it's a little bit more structured, the style. And I screwed up when I did it. I shouldn't have put the ascenders on the top of the serifs, so they're going to get painted out when it gets outlined anyway, so it'll change a little bit again. Okay, so next day, interesting, like my little experiment sort of thing that kind of did work-ish, but it's hard to tell because I didn't really paint it on any nice surfaces. It doesn't have the same kind of gloss as it would have done on a, you know, prior sort of thing. So adding that extra pigment has kind of flattened it off a bit. I think I should have done it. I might try it again on a nice kind of gloss surface, but it definitely did cover, you know, quite good. And maybe put a little bit too much of the powdered pigment in there, but doesn't matter. It's like, for what we're doing, it's all good, but it doesn't kind of come off on your fingers or anything. So I'm just going to chuck a couple of little bits and pieces on this morning before I head off to work, just so to keep moving on this. I didn't get to do anything on this last night because we went out for dinner and that was good, thanks. Well, it was full. And so yeah, I just got to do a little bit of gold, just using this sort of cheaper gold. A couple of bits on the old anchor. This brush, I actually need to clean this brush out properly with some lacquer thinner. It's actually got a dry spot on it. I should maybe put some extra powdered colour into this gold and see if we can get it to cover better. Okay, so that'll do us for now. It still looks really rank and really kind of like not much excitement going on in there, but hopefully once we kind of get into the next stages of it, it'll kind of start to liven up a little bit, because at the moment it just looks really amateurish. But we'll see. It might not pan out the way I'm planning on it, and we might end up just sanding it off and doing something else. So hopefully I'll be back at this, maybe do a little bit tonight when I get home from work, but yeah, otherwise it'll be tomorrow afternoon when I get home from work. So we'll see you in the next step. Okay, so back after work, I'm just going to do a couple of little bits of stuff on here just to get ahead, so tomorrow I can do all the other stuff hopefully tomorrow afternoon after work. Tomorrow afternoon is actually a Saturday. I don't normally work Saturdays, but you know, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do, you know what I'm saying? My man that I work with, his daughter's getting married, so he's away. He normally works at Saturday. He's away tomorrow doing wedding stuff. Okay, so just got a tiny little bit of foam and just stippling out that orange on those petals a little bit. Just I should have done this when it was wet, but the red was wet as well as the orange, you know. But I didn't actually think I didn't think I was gonna do this, but I just decided to, just because I thought the orange looked a little bit harsh. So. But it had already kind of tacked off a bit, so I'd kind of dip it into thinners or terps, knock it down a little bit, and then kind of just get it so it's just wet, which is enough to kind of push that around like that. And that's enough, I think. It's not super smoothed out and blended and stuff, but it's just taken a bit of the harsh orangeness out of it. Know what I'm saying? Now, I mean, geezer. That's enough of that for now. So that's the next stage done. We might bring in some of the greens in up over here somewhere once we've kind of figured out the final outline stuff. The toilet's going to have a black outline. That sounds so weird, but the word toilet will have a black outline around it. Same with the anchor and all the flowers and whatnot, but the next stage, I guess, will be the white. So there's going to be a kind of bolder white outline, and I'm going to do a little panel here because we've got to put a tiny little dragon on there, which was the old logo, the original logo of Roger's Tattoo Art. So we're putting that on there, and then we'll yeah, probably do all the black, and then we'll figure out whether it needs any other kind of old school decorating, if you know what I'm saying. So till tomorrow, what I am thinking of doing, after doing my little experiment with trying to make a better covering red with powdered pigment from tattoo supplies back in the 90s, that's how long I've had that stuff. I'm gonna actually try and do it with some white as well, and as someone else commented the other week when I did the sign thing about chucking a little bit of light blue into the white to help it cover. Back, as I said in the reply to his comment, I can't remember the chap's name, but yeah, totally on board with that. I know we sometimes as well used to just pick the background color and put a little bit of whatever it was closest to. Like in this case, if it was a dark brown, we'd probably just put a little bit of black in it, or you know, a little bit of brown, but most likely black. Put brown in it, might go a bit pinky. If it was on a kind of bluer or greener background, you might put a little bit of blue or green in it just to help with opacity. But most of the time we just put a little bit of black in, so it was just ended up greying it up a little bit, but it was easy to get too grey. So what I want to try and do is like with the the actual one-shot white, it actually covers really well. I haven't got much of it. That white there lettering white. It covers like super good, but it's kind of again want to save that for pinstriping and stuff when I need it super opaque, you know. So this is just a gloss white enamel, cheap as chips. So a little experiment with that tomorrow, maybe with chucking a bit of white powdered pigment into it, which is just titanium oxide, I think. So we'll maybe chuck a couple of scoops of that in there and see what it does to it, you know, see whether it does kind of pump it up, because I mean it flows super nice, that white, but it covers like dirty dishwater. So I probably won't put as much in as I did the red. I think I actually put a little bit too much in because I lost some of the gloss, and it is a little gritty, especially the first couple of letters. It actually smooths out not much at all. By the time I get to the T, I thought it smoothed out a bit, but it didn't really. But anyway, tomorrow I'll be back and try and save this little sign. It does look a bit rank, but hopefully we'll dress it up with our outlines and smooth it out and even things out a bit. At the moment it's just a bit kind of wonkier than I kind of was really anticipating. Initially it was supposed to be wonky, kind of new school custom culture kind of thing, and then I kind of changed my plan part way through and it just has kind of gone on a different path. But excuse me, hopefully be able to bring it back. Okay, so titanium dioxide, white pigment, white powder. I'm not going to kind of dump a heap into this tin of paint. How do I do that? I just want to kind of mix up a little bit, see how it works, and see whether it, you know, kind of does make it a little bit more opaque. So I've just got a little bit in the little cup here, so won't put heaps in. I'll probably already put too much in, to be fair, because I haven't got much paint in there. So give it a stir. It's probably going to make it all gritty like it did with the red. Kind of see it would be kind of better if you could kind of maybe mortar and pestle the pigment powder beforehand, or you know, some kind of super fine grinding technique to sort of make the micron size of the pigment finer again, you know. It's probably good for tattooing because it's coarser, you know, holds in the skin, rah-de-rah-de-rah. It's one theory anyway. But for paint you probably want it super fine, you know, so it lays out super smooth. Yeah, I can see it's quite gritty, but I reckon it'll cover. As I said earlier, you can get away with doing this on something like this, I guess, where the finish of the saw is already pretty, you know, rugged anyway, whereas you wouldn't want to do this and get this kind of result on someone's hot rod or whatever, because you're likely to kind of have a kind of gritty, kind of rougher finish when you really want a nice smooth gloss on a car. If you were going to swamp it in clear or something like that, it'd probably be alright, but in this sort of situation it's going to be just fine. I'm just curious, really. Something I've been thinking about for a long time. I just wanted to see whether it would work, you know, as simplistic a manner as that, whether it would actually do what I thought it might do. Clean the oil out of that brush. Might need my spectacles. Yeah, I've just got to put a white panel on here. Yeah, you can see the grittiness in the paint. Pretty much to be as expected, I guess. Definitely colours better though. Molten. Yeah, definitely covers better than that just on its own. As for how it's going to dry, like, it seems it's real gritty when you first kind of load up your brush, but you can kind of flatten it out a bit, which is not great in the respect that it's kind of a bit of a pain. If you're doing a one-stroke letter, you don't want to do multiple strokes. I suppose you could kind of maybe palette some a bit and see if you can flatten out the grittiness that way. But what was I saying? But yeah, it definitely covers better than that little tin of paint straight off out of the bat. Be curious to see how it dries, whether it has any kind of gloss left in it or whether there's too much, you know, flattening off because of the extra pigment in there. But anyway, we'll carry on and see how we get on laying some more stuff into this. Yeah, other than the grittiness, it actually covers super nice. Okay, that battery's about to die, so check it out. Definitely covered better than that particular paint straight out of the tin. You know, I've seen me try to use that before on various things, and it covers like dirty dishwater, but it flowed really nice. So it is actually nice to letter with, but you just got to double or triple coat everything. Now for something like this, you can still see it's a bit thin in places. That's fine for what this is for. Again, same with the red. I probably wouldn't put it on someone's car, but on a rough cast sign like this, that's fine, and you can get better coverage out of it. You can see the the gritty powder in there sort of thing. I think it'd be way better if you kind of mixed it mechanically, not just with an old bloody kitchen knife sort of thing. But yeah, so we'll let that dry off, see how flat and gritty it gets as it dries, and then on to the next stage, which, what's that? I don't know. Got to outline everything in black. Yep, so that'll probably be next. Okay, so got me a little bit of little black dragon to add into that white panel there, and this is a dragon that old mate Roger used on his logo forever. It was on his business cards, and had it kind of a painted version of it, I think, in the front window of his studio forever, and then the current studio kind of reincarnation or refurbishment sort of thing. They put it back on the door because it's part of the history of that particular studio, if you know what I mean. And I was sort of asked if I could try and include that into here. It's going to be very little, but it is what it is. Use some of that Sorrel paper to transfer that onto there. Hopefully get it in a good spot. I probably should have got some tape ready. Quite a tricky little paint job on it, that's for sure. That should do us. We need a real sharp pencil for this one. Alright, spectacles on. Yes, nice and crisp. Okay, so stick that up there. So now just got to do some black outlining, and obviously some very kind of fine little black dragon there, so I'm not quite sure what I'm going to use. I have to go and have a look through my brushes and see what I can use that's going to get me down small enough to hopefully be able to paint that wee dragon on there. Okay, so that's the wee dragon painted on there. I used this little wee AS Hanover brush, as I mentioned earlier. It is a 0, and it's a little wee fella. And I actually got 2 of them. Now, I bought these by mistake because it was the first time I bought any brushes online from AS Hanover, and I kind of didn't know their sizing and stuff like that, so I'll start small for, I was thinking it would be good for like, fine outlining of lettering and stuff like that, which potentially could be, but they arrived in a tiny, like that, absolutely, pinky nail length and super fine, and I was like, what am I going to use those for? And here we have it, found a use for it. So next up, I'm going to start like running some lines around these flowers and the anchor, and I'm going to do an outline on this lettering as well. So the white's a bit grainy feeling as well, adding that extra pigment in there. It's got a little bit of gloss in it still. I think you could do that, like I said earlier, on kind of rough finish stuff like that, you can get away with it, but to get a bit more gloss out of it, and still get some coverage, I think you probably need to have a finer pigment with a bit more kind of oils in the paint, but then that kind of thins it out and makes it a bit more kind of transparent. What I want to do here is that's the splitter. Alright, so make sure that's relieved with its oil, needs for oil. This is one of these pointed writers, so I'm going to use that kind of hopefully like a little pen, black paint on it. So, this is just one shot black, which is really black, which is really good. Don't get me wrong, one shot paint is awesome. I would like to try some Ronin stuff, and now, as I said before, you can get one shot in New Zealand again. It's just like the price has gone up exponentially, so it's quite spendy. But for the amount that you use, or I use it, sort of thing, it's kind of hard to justify, but I will somehow. And anyway, let's get into some outlining of this stuff. Look at my ear hole. I'm looking at here. Alright, so now next up is I've just got to get a bit of a black outline around this red lettering here. This is going to be quite tricky. I'm going to use this another AS Hanover. This is another little chisel rider, number 2 chisel rider, so you get quite a nice little chisel. As to whether I can maintain a nice consistent outline around this, that remains to be seen. So we'll give it a crack anyway. Okay, the tricky part's going to be getting nice corners and getting tight curves and stuff. Bloody eyeballs. That's the one. So I'm just going to do a couple of little kind of old school kind of little star filler things in white, just for shits and giggles. Just because I feel like there's some spaces that need a little bit of something, you know. Just a couple of little things like this here and there. Okay, so one last little touch. I just want to throw in a little bit of a kind of blue into a few spots, you know, just as a extra decoration, if you know what I mean. Okay, so battery ran out, well, SD card fiddled up and whatnot, and then I think the battery was flat as well, so we're back. We're still doing a little bit of decorating in the form of this blue dots and stuff around the place, just like this. Don't even really have to look. Well, I probably should. That's how I'm clowning around like that. That's how I get myself into trouble, you know what I'm saying? Okay, so that's that little toilet sign done. It seems like a weird thing to be doing a YouTube video on, painting a toilet sign on a wood saw. Don't know what the wood saw has to do with going to the toilet, but you know, sometimes it sounds like you're sawing wood in there. But anyway, so that's it done. If anyone's interested, I'll kind of give you a bit of a rundown on the brushes that I used. I can't, probably not in the exact order that I used them in, I'll try. I think for the main red lettering, I used this AS Hanover number 5, and that's like a medium here pure sable. And I used my old Hayden 2000 series number 4. What did I use that for? I don't know, I used it for something, but that's when I discovered there's a bit of dry paint in it. So that needs a bit of a good clean out, some lacquer thinners, so I should do that before I forget. I think this is what I used for the white outline, which is AS Hanover chisel writer number 4, and that's like a medium length here, pure sable, really nice. Wouldn't mind getting some slightly longer haired ones of these actually, but this is a really nice brush for that stuff. I wouldn't mind doing some nicer signage, maybe having a play with those. As you've seen with the little dragon on the thing there, that was a AS Hanover number 0, so that's like a pretty short haired 0, pure sable, nice little brush. Bit hard to see these days with the real little stuff, but I think I did alright. My focal point's shifting. I need to get some new garage glasses. These yeah, they kind of lost a little bit of the oomph. My habit is to get in close but on little stuff, but the focal point with these is about here, whereas I instinctively want to be closer, or I'm trying to get tight corners, like, and I just can't. Everything's like, you're like blurry eyed and stuff when you kind of get in that close. It sucks getting older, doesn't it, lads? And what else did I use? I used these 3 here, actually all look pretty much the same. Possibly 2 of them are. So yeah, we've got 2 different hair lengths, different bristle lengths, that's right. These 2 here, one is a chisel rider, one is a pointed rider. I used the chisel rider, I think, for, I don't know, maybe the anchor and stuff like that, which is that one there, and that's a number 2. Oh no, these are both pointed, right? These are both the same. What a dipshit. Okay, for some reason I've got 2 brushes exactly the same out. They're both number 2 pure sable AS Hanover pointed writers, and that's what I used. I think I used those for doing the kind of colour on the flowers and the green and stuff like that, and also used those for the black outline around the anchor and the flowers and stuff, and the blue I used the pointed writer. And this last one here is the AS Hanover number 2 chisel writer, and it's actually slightly longer bristled, and that's what I used for the outline around the red on the toilet. That's really nice. I have always sort of struggled with kind of finer outlines and that, especially nowadays that the old eyeballs don't want to let me get in close to kind of get the corners as crisp as I'd like, but that does make a, you know, when there's paint loaded up there, it does make a really nice sort of chisel, especially if you knock the paint back a little bit, which you can afford to do on the black, maybe not on some of the lighter colours. So that's the brushes used, and as you kind of seen, I think you know, the blue, 1 shot, black, 1 shot. What else did we use? Used a little bit of 1 shot orange on the flowers, right, and a little bit of 1 shot brown. We mixed it with a little bit of this strokes gold, which is really kind of piss thin. That could do with some extra pigment in it. A little bit of the greens, both 1 shot, used on the greenery on there. And as you've seen at the beginning there, that was just that strokes red that I put a bit of Spalding and Rogers crimson red powder into it. Probably a little bit too much is why it kind of made it a little bit kind of gritty, but it did help it cover. And the white was just, again, just a, you know, cheapy kind of hobby white from the hardware store. Does yellow up a bit though, that one, which will be good because it will age up nicely on this. But I chucked a little bit of Tattoo Incorporated supplies. If anyone, a tattooist from the UK, see this and you're an old guard, you'll probably know who those guys were. I don't think that company's around anymore. The artists, I think, still are. I think they're all still going. Lel Hardy and who else was it? John Williams, I think. John might have died. Don't quote me on that, he may not have. But yeah, that was Incorporated Supplies, and yeah, I used to buy powdered colour from those guys and out of the States. And did I get any out of Aussie? No, I got some pre-mixed stuff out of Aussie, but yeah, so still got that. And again, like, I think if you could grind that powder to a finer particle size and maybe put a bit less in than I put in that red, you'd get a kind of better, smoother kind of paint finish sort of thing. And as I said earlier, fine on this saw, because you got a rusty saw with a bit of varnish over the top of it, and then painting over the top of that, it's all good. But yeah, I wouldn't use it. I wouldn't do that on someone's hot rod. Yeah, the finish is just not quite nice enough, if you know what I mean. Not glossy enough, not smooth enough to use on someone's, 6-figure hot rod or 5-figure hot rod, however many figures it's got. But yeah, that's all the crap that was used. A bit of Sorel paper, a bit of masking tape. Used the black Sorel, that worked like super nice to give me a really crisp outline to follow for that wee dragon. And she's done. So that's it, all done. Just got to clean up and oil all my brushes and things like that, put all my stuff away, and then I can let that kind of cure up for a few days before I kind of wrap that up and get that in the post off down to the Rogers Tattoo Art, down to mate Dre, who now owns that. And yeah, that's it. It came around. It was looking kind of rough. The front tee's still a bit wonky. I think I shouldn't have followed that top line the way I did, but it doesn't matter. It's fit for purpose, if that makes sense. It sounds like a cop out. It probably is, but yeah, I'm actually quite happy with it now. I actually quite like the look of it. I think the blue actually really added a lot more to it than I thought it was going to. I thought I was just going to fill out some space that the little stars didn't do enough of, but I actually think the blue kind of has now made it, it's given it a whole new kind of caricature kind of vibe, which is what I like. But yeah, my sign painting videos in general don't really track all that well, so I don't know why, I don't know why, like, yeah, I guess some of you guys that follow the channel for, the car stuff, the Area 51 in particular, and aren't interested so much in, painting signs, especially, kind of when they're a bit kind of corporate-y looking, like the tattoo ones, or the main tattoo ones I did the other week. But stuff like this is fun, and this channel was about what I get up to in the garage, bumbling around in the garage, and that's what it says in the channel description. So suck it. No, I'm just joking. It does say that in the description, and it has said that since day one, since I actually started doing this channel as a channel as such, other than way back when it just had some time-lapse videos of drawing or painting or something like that. Yeah, so that's where we're going to leave this video on the DMAC Customs YouTube channel. Thanks as always for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, go to the dmaccustoms.com and buy some merch. And don't forget we're on the Facebook, Instagram, and next video back on that again. So take it easy till next time, and peace.